Asked to go into executive session.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're down to the bottom. For those people that are here, my guesses would be at least a half an hour. All right, I'd like to reconvene the board meeting at 10 minutes of 8. Am I looking at the clock?
Yep.
Public comments? Is there any public comments? Anybody would like to speak? Very good. Could you just give your name, please?
Sure. Josh Carvajal. So I have a son in the high school, Daniel, and my daughter currently attends Highland Hall School. She's a 7th grader there. It's a private school up near the Shaftesbury-Bennington border. And next year she's going to be attending the middle school as an 8th grader. And I've been in contact with Mr. Lee about seeing if she would be able to attend a course this year at the middle school to transition her from the private school to public school. And he passed me on to James Colkin, the superintendent, and James suggested that I contact James. Nice to meet you. We talked via email.
Email and phone calls, yep.
Yep. He suggested I come to the board to ask permission to do that. There's currently no SVSU policy allowing private school students to do that. If she was homeschooled, she would be allowed to attend courses at the middle school, but because she's a private school student, there's no policy.
Right. I think there's a state law that, does anybody know what state law is?
There's a state law that allows homeschooled students to participate, and we also have that reflected in our policy. But in the discussions that I had, the Agency of Education is saying there is no policy or law to allow this, no way for you to bill for it, and our attorney has, actually, if I use the AOE's terminology, let's see if I get this right, that you have a right to a free public education, but not a right to design your own public education.
Right.
In other words, you don't have a right to pick the and come to what class you want to and what you don't. It's certainly, and that's why I suggested it seemed to me the only option you would have was to petition the board.
Yes.
Does the board have the authority to do that?
I don't have that answer. I got a ruling from Steve Stitzel, and he was in agreement with the Steve Stitzel, the school's attorney. He pretty much was in agreement. His answer was kind of duplicated what the Agency of Education said. So didn't necessarily say you had the authority to do it, but just said that you don't have to do it. You can't be forced to do it.
But can you do it? Does any board member here like to speak that? Nathan, you're connected with homeschooling and things.
Right. So could you explain to us a little more why you think this kind of setup would help your daughter?
Just transition from a private school setting. I mean, Highland Hall is basically a 2-room schoolhouse with 30 students, and she's used to that atmosphere. And transitioning into public school may be a little difficult for her. We've enrolled her in previous Mosaic programs during the summer, which are great programs, and she's got to know some of the students and some of the faculty. But we just feel that it would be helpful for her to take like a foreign language course or an arts course at middle school to kind of get used to the school, maybe standardized testing, get used to the more students and stuff like that.
Tim,
Just to ease her transition.
Tim, do you have any comment on this?
I mean, only that we...
Do you know, excuse me, do you know Tim Payne, who's the principal?
By name, yes.
Okay.
All right, we do have homeschool students who actually take foreign language and art, and we've had students in the past who have kind of used it as a transition to a full-time middle school schedule, but we had the same, we went looking for the answer too, and in talking to the central office, it was made clear to us that there is that availability for homeschool kids, but if you are enrolled at another school, that option is not available.
You're a
to you.
student at that school.
Yeah.
Could I don't want to postpone it, but more than we have to, but if we could get a legal opinion
Yeah.
from our attorney, whether this board has the
The
right.
specific question, if you could allow it, if you
we could
wanted
allow
to.
it if we decided to do it. That's no guarantee that the board would do it.
Nope,
I just,
apparently so.
first, before we go through the whole process, it may just be a waste of time if he says we can't do
I
it.
do know that there is no way for you to count the student in any type of count in your, that would have an impact on your ADM or anything like that.
It might, we've got a number, Rick or Dave first. then.
Would this set a precedent? I mean, you know, one doesn't seem like any kind of a problem, but if we open the door, could we have all kind of other people?
It's something we would have to discuss if, in fact, we can do it. But let's wait to see if we can do it. Rick?
I just want to make sure, I'm assuming since you plan on sending next year's an 8th grader, that you are a resident of one of our 5 communities?
Yeah, Bennington. We've been in Bennington for 15 years.
Okay.
Good question, though.
Is-
It's important.
Is everybody comfortable with that? We'll just wait to hear, and at our next meeting, we'll have a,
Tim, so when we have a homeschooled student come, is there some kind of financial, there isn't?
No.
So it wouldn't make any difference whether it was somebody from Highland Hall or South Shire?
They are specifically allowed by law to take classes, the homeschooled student is,
It's just a question whether the law dealt with
and to
this.
compete in athletic events, yes.
So I would, recommend, I think Dave hit it on the head. When we developed the homeschool policy piece, we didn't look at that piece in terms of private school students trying to get in and take a class and so forth, because they were exempted from that. But we would need that ruling, and then we would have to take and make a policy up for that, because it's not just Highland Hall. There's a whole lot of other schools that would want to take advantage of that opportunity to do just what you just talked about. Have their kid take a class in the public school, and how
well,
to manage that.
we can move on then, and we'll find out, and at our next meeting, we'll be able to give you a definite answer, or if we have a definite answer that would be negative as far as you're concerned, I'm sure
Yeah,
Jim,
as soon as- yeah.
as soon as
We've been
we
in
find out.
contact, so.
We'll be in contact.
That's
Thank
fine.
you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
All
Yep.
right.
Any other public comments?
I do have a guest and visitor here this evening that I'd like to introduce at this time.
Okay.
So you did hire this year a new Associate Director for Special Education at MAU, and her name is Jen Fisher, and she's here. So Jen, if you could, don't assume that everyone here knows who you are or how long you've been here or what you've done to get here. So give us a brief little Jen Fisher bio.
Okay, so I've been working at the high school for about 15 years as a special educator. Ran a ED program, worked with kids, learning disabled students, and I ran an autism program. This position came open for the first time. I never really thought of going into administration. I've been asked, but I always enjoyed teaching. This position was never available. Once it became available, it piqued my interest. It covers all the areas I really enjoy: program development, supervision, working with teachers. And so I applied for it, and I got it, and I accepted it.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Does anybody, any board member have any questions? Will you be working out of central office now?
Nope, I'm housed at the high school and the middle school. So I split my time between the two schools.
And do you deal with teachers by and large, or with students?
Mostly with teachers and paraeducators. And with the students, I do a lot of meetings. I kind of oversee the special ed meetings as the LEA, especially for areas that have to make some big decisions.
Yep.
So with parents, I work a lot with parents.
Do you have the certification to be at IEP meetings?
Yes,
You do, so you
Yes.
can help with that responsibility?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Oh, no questions. I just want to comment and say I've seen Jen in action, and I'm welcoming her into that position, and I'm glad you got it. And,
Thanks, Leon.
Look forward to seeing you spread the news.
Great, thank
throughout the
you.
district. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
Finance.
I just don't know if you want to just formally amend the agenda. I don't know where you planned on putting that.
Well, I was gonna wait until we got down to the consent agenda, but, and we can put it anywhere.
Okay, so I just It's up to you.
Okay, we can do it now. Leon?
Oh, all right.
So, well, I think you want to amend to add a C to the finance for the administrative stipends,
Right. We need,
and then we'll get there in a second.
that's what he's asking you to do, is add it to the agenda.
Yeah.
On the C, on item number C. Position.
Stipends. Okay. So Leon, you're up?
No,
So,
I don't know if you're doing
you have the
treasurer report.
treasurer's
You have the
report.
treasurer's
Okay, treasurer's report, on to C.
I'll move we accept the treasurer's report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying, any no, all those in
Discussion.
favor signify by saying aye.
You didn't ask for discussion.
Abstentions?
opposed.
You get it.
Opposed?
You get it.
Very good. Budget status is for your information?
Yep.
Okay, we can move down to C now.
On the item C on the finance, I'd like to move that we approve 5 positions for stipending. The building in this position, these are at the high school. Building-based sub-coordinator, security and management position, a freshman academy position, seeds for success and coordinators position, and the senior seminar coordinator position at the high school.
A second there.
Is there any discussion?
Do you want to announce how much are associated with each one?
No.
The
No,
cost?
Not
No,
yet.
That'll be on the norm
That'll
form.
be on the
Yeah.
non forms. Any further discussion? We did a lengthy discussion at the executive session of the board on this and came back to the full board with a recommendation.
And these are 1-year positions.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So I need to amend, my motion is to make these a 1-year position, these 5. Okay.
I'll second the amendment.
Very good. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 2 opposed, 3 opposed. Abstentions?
Can we do the opposed again, please?
3 opposed. All right, passes. We can move on. Consent agenda. Do you have a motion to accept?
So
the-
moved.
Do you have a second?
Second it?
Okay, any discussion on any of the issues there? Yes,
That includes the warrants, right?
yes, it
I have
does.
one question on page 28 and 29. There was a minor charge for alarm circuits for Earthlink, and I'm just wondering, what is that?
That is our fire alarm passes through Earthlink to our carrier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fran,
Looking through the budget, and these are on several pages, but you have like annual clothing allowance for custodians, and then we have uniforms, so what's the difference?
Nothing, just saying.
So not only do we pay a laundry thing, but they get an allowance for those uniforms.
And we purchase the shirts for them, and they get an allowance for their pants and boots.
Okay. I just, first time I've seen that, I just
Okay.
had to ask.
It's been going on for a long time.
Okay.
any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Very good, we can move on then. Administrators report. We'll start off with Brenda.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I have 2 things for you tonight. One from the athletic director that I'm going to hand out. He could not be here tonight to give the report, and so he wanted to catch you up on the things that are happening in the extracurricular activities and the athletic activities, and so that is coming around. My report is, I would like to let you know about breakfast. I know that that has come up at the board meeting in the past, and all indications are that more students are eating breakfast this year than they were last year. And we've configured it at the high school so that it's available in the cafeteria, and there's also carts that are set throughout the school and manned with grab-and-go items. And it would appear that we're meeting the targets we would like to meet with breakfast. We had a great start, and one of the things that people told me I would be able to measure the quality of the start with was how many lines there were at guidance waiting for schedule changes. And there were minimal lines at guidance waiting for schedule changes. And so I think the summer work that we did with student schedules and some of the guidance counseling that happened over the summer really made a difference. One of the things that I noticed this year that is greater than in the past is we have 30 students who are registered and taking the senior project option, which is an independent study that they do and report to the community. And that enrollment is up over the last 2 years, and that is growing. The other thing that we have started at the high school, I mean, as you know, Act 77 has put our focus on personalized learning plans and proficiency-based learning. And there was an opportunity through the Agency of Education and an organization called Shaping Our Futures Together to take a college credit course as a team of faculty and students. And tomorrow we are taking 2 students, and myself and another faculty member, Brooke Remington, are starting this course in Montpelier. And it's a year-long course for which we're all getting college credit, and it's designed to involve students and faculty in planning to realize Act 77. And that is starting tomorrow. There are only 5 other schools in Vermont that were given this opportunity, and we're the only school in southern Vermont that is participating in this. And so we will be bringing back what we learn through taking this course about Act 77 and personalized learning plans and proficiency-based learning and its impact on education. We'll be bringing back our learning to a team at the high school that is also made up of students and teachers, and we will begin to design our action plan based on that. And unless you guys have questions for me, that's all I have to report this month.
Thank you. Any questions for Linda? Move on, Tim.
Just a couple of housekeeping things, and then the superintendent has asked me to address a specific topic. On August 24th, in the week before kids return to school, we dedicated the outdoor classroom. I think we talked about that briefly at the August meeting for the board. This was made possible by a gift by the Williams family in honor of their daughter who was killed 2 years ago in a car accident. We had a very nice afternoon. We were able to thank our partners at the CDC for the kids in the building trades and forestry classes who came out, actually prepared the site and put up the structure. There's a very nice plaque, a thoughtful plaque that is now installed on the building. And since the start of the school year, we have a happy challenge of now having to establish a Google Calendar in the front office as lots and lots of teachers getting out there and using the space. So I invite the board members that you're up here that you take a walk. The garden has been tended all summer by your land steward, and it's been very helpful. The greenhouse is in good order, more tomatoes than you could possibly imagine. And he's always looking for folks to take some food home. But a lot of food going into the cafeteria to feed kids, and that's a good thing. That is something that this group has talked about they want to see more of. So more kids in the garden and more food coming out of the garden to feed kids, which is positive. Just a reminder, in case folks didn't see it on the billboard out front, tomorrow is our open house.
Tim, before you go on there, did we get the organization of the agricultural outdoor program taken care of in terms of leader?
Absolutely. So one of the we've had an ag committee meeting between the 2 board meetings. We had a very well attended agricultural subcommittee meeting, and it was proposed and passed by that group that there will be a small group of about 5 individuals representing CDC, Youth Ag, the middle school, the high school, the land steward, sitting down and making a plan going forward. part of that will be their input into the budget process as we move through that part of the school year as well.
Good.
So, and they have been charged to report back to the Ag Committee at the beginning of October with a plan.
Very good, thank you.
Sure.
Well, that's certainly exciting news. It's nice to see something like that moving forward and see the enthusiasm that's shown by the staff as well as the students, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we have new teachers, so there's a new teacher at the CDC as well as a new sustainability teacher here too, so some very, kind of some new ideas and some new energy in that group, so that's a
Good.
positive.
But there is going to be a central organizing group for both of those.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Tomorrow is open house at the middle school from 6:30 to 8:30. Board members are always welcome to join us. We do a very short introduction in the cafeteria, and then parents, grades 6 through 8, there's actually an agenda. They go and meet core teams, or they go and meet unified teachers. We usually have very good attendance, especially among the younger grades, so please feel free. We also put out some treats at the end of the evening to entice folks to stay for a little bit longer, so you're always welcome to join us. The superintendent has asked me to talk about the Bennington Oral Health Coalition. If you read your banner, which I do every morning to start my day, they were in the paper this morning. The select board has appointed a subcommittee of that board to have that further discussion. The Bennington Oral Health Coalition, however, I imagine some of their members will be placed on that subcommittee, but they have been having discussions with us at the middle school, I think at the high school as well, but I won't speak for Glenda on that. And I've been just keeping Superintendent Colquhoun updated on that. What they would like to do is, working with our school nurse, participate in the screenings that middle schoolers go through every year, mostly vision screenings at this point in the building. They would like to have, as part of that screening process, a quick oral health screening. The purposes of that screening is mostly to gather data. We've been very clear with the coalition that any next steps, which could possibly include dental hygienists being placed at the middle school to do, more in-depth screenings of kids, connecting families and kids to a dentist that will take Dr. Dinosaur or Medicare. All of that is ahead of us as far as the discussion, because there's a cost available to that and who's responsible for what and physical location of such a program. But at this point, we are working with them to at least get the nurse and a member of the coalition doing the screenings. We're looking to do that in October. And from those screenings, I am sure that we will be coming back to the board to update what we have found and what they're proposing moving forward through the superintendent and myself.
Thank you. Any questions for Tim?
I only had one other thing.
I'm sorry.
I'll gladly pause and take questions, but I only have one other thing too.
Go ahead.
The only other thing I wanted to update the board on is that the middle school is on a new bell schedule this year. It's not a very exciting thing, but you may be hearing from members in the community. Instead of a 7-block day, 45 minutes apiece, the students have 6 academic periods a day, and they're 55-minute blocks. The idea was that we would spend more time in instruction, less time on transitions. And generally what we're hearing from academic teachers is positive. They like the longer period of time. It allows it's moving to where we want to see, less transitions, more instruction.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Tim? Very good. We can move on then. I don't see our student representative. Glenda, could you just be sure that we have one, I think, but I don't know if he or she is aware of when we meet, and if we can be helpful, we'll get a notice out to that individual.
I will do that.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Good evening. Most of my report tonight is going to be given by other people, so, which is always a good thing. Huh?
That's right.
So at this time, I'd like to introduce Laura Boudreau. Thank you for your patience, Laura. Laura, as you know, is the SVSU Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and she's here this evening to give you an update on the academic performance of MAU students. I don't know, and the principal's also assisting you in your presentation. That's what I thought. So this time, Laura Boudreau and Tim. Glenda, are you also doing part of this? Yes. All right.
Are we on the screen?
I'm going to move.
Very sophisticated.
Here you go. You're welcome.
IT gave us those computers,
So we want to be close to
Thank you.
I comprehend things better on paper. Yeah, but there's also a human interface issue with LED screens. And I know when I'm writing technical documents,
So the information that we're presenting to the board this evening, for those of you who were on the board last year, this is going to look somewhat familiar in that this is an opening of the school year presentation. We talk a little bit about goals that we set for ourselves in the 14-15 school year, how we were going to measure that, what action steps we were going to take, and then we will be talking about our goals for the 15-16 school year, our action steps for that, and our possible needs. So the format may look familiar, but hopefully we'll be providing you some new information this evening.
Switch, push button from it.
Yep.
So the first few slides are to remind you that as a district, we're working on building a multi-tiered system of support in all of our schools. Every school is at a different place in that process, and it's per the Vermont Educational Quality Standards. The multi-tiered systems of support looks at the needs of all of our students. It's a comprehensive, systemic system. It's designed to improve the learning of our students through differentiated and intensified assessments, instruction, and intervention. Every one of our schools has a building action plan that is based on the 5 components of a multi-tiered system of support. This is just to highlight those 5 components. And the middle component, high quality instruction and intervention, has a piece to it that highlights that your school needs to have a vision or a purpose that's helping to guide your instructional or your behavioral goals.
So as far as the MAU purpose, this is the same purpose that we shared with you last year. So again, it may look somewhat familiar to you, but we talk a lot about 21st century skills. What does that mean at the MAU? Well, we're addressing the Common Core standards, the next generation science standards, as far as engaging our students. Glenna and I will talk a little bit more about engagement as we go through the presentation. We talked about a curriculum, we talked about instruction, we talked about assessment, but we're also going to be talking about the new state expectation around personalized learning plans, or PLPs. So you'll see a lot of that discussion as we work through our needs and our goals for this evening. Last year, our goal, using map testing, formative assessments, common finals, we were looking for students to show on average a 2 to 5% growth in ELA and mathematics for the 2014-15 school year. So the numbers that you are looking at are for the middle school. This is pulled from the MAP test. We give the MAP test to our grades 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We give it 3 times a year, once in the fall, once in the winter, and once in the spring. What you are looking at is, on the top is MAP data. That is a year-long growth rate. For the 6th grade, it was 3.2, 7th grade, 2.2, and 8th grade was 1.1. For literacy, again, it's the same structure. Grade 6, a 2.9% growth, 7, 0.9, and 8.1. As you look at those numbers, there's a couple of things that should draw your attention to. First of all, the MAP data definitely shows areas of need in the areas of math in the 8th grade. The positive that I see as a building principal is in grade 6. I think that's a benefit of the math group working closely with Go Math for a 2-year period. So we're starting to see some positives in that direction, and hopefully that we can build on that this year. In the areas of literacy, obviously a concern around 7th and 8th grade. As we started looking at the MAP data this summer, what we see is the Common Core is asking for kids to read more informational text, nonfiction, and that will definitely be an area of ELA. That group has been working for 1 year, and they will continue their work this year. So we obviously have some work ahead of us. One thing, in fairness to the MAP data, the MAP data is connected to national norms. And in 2011, and then they redid it again this year in 2015, and they have become much more rigorous because they're trying to connect them to the SBAC, which is this new national assessment. And so it's becoming much more rigorous. Just as a principle, I looked, and if we were still being measured by 2011, we would have seen much more growth of our kids. But obviously, we have a higher standard to meet, so that work still remains ahead of us.
Oh, I want to go back actually. So because there was this big shift in the assessments that we're giving at the high school level last year, because we're looking at last year right now, MAP, right, the way our MAP, measures of academic progress, is used, we couldn't set up the benchmark to match the way the high school runs their semesters. So you're not going to see, so you're only seeing data for growth right now from the middle school, but MAP has changed this year, so the high school is going to have more flexibility this coming year in looking at growth data, and we're looking forward to seeing that. So that's why right now you're seeing middle school growth data.
Yeah, middle school is on a trimester system. It allows us to line up the testing and academic periods. So last year, the things that we said we were going to be working on 2014, 2015, after school supports, those are in place, whether it be academic tutoring. At the middle school, we support that through the 21st Century Grant with the Mosaic program. We also support summer programming such as Literacy Camp, and those are all targeted interventions for math and ELA for students. Operation Math is offered through the math department in the high school. That is available for middle school and high school students. That did happen. Professional Learning Plan, what we mean is the professional learning opportunities that we provide for teachers through the 2014-15 school year are focused on literacy and math. That did happen. At the middle school, we use a provider called Keys to Literacy, but we also connect with Bill Atwood as a math workshop provider, so that's really good stuff. The high school does offer now full-year courses in algebra and geometry. The idea about that, I can't really speak to the origin other than traditionally math is offered as a semester course, so you don't have quite the, might not have quite the regression as kids are working at math at their level throughout the school year. Both the middle school and the high school use a common final exam within departments that allows teachers to sit down and look at it and say, all right, what did our kids do really well in and what are they struggling in? So those are good conversations and only get better.
Tim?
Yes?
How many people take advantage of your after-school support and the summer math?
So in the, I can't speak to Operation Math numbers. Katie Schoenbuck could probably pull them up instantly for you. After school programming, what we offer is we offer homework support, 2 teachers, 1 for grades 7 and 8, 1 for grade 6. On average, I can speak for Christine Keklak. She does the 7th and 8th. She can have anywhere from 10 to 20 kids after school getting assistance in homework. It's a general homework assistance, but she's a math teacher, a certified math teacher available for math help. The summer programming, we have academic support. Probably the bigger program in the summer is a literacy camp, which is targeted for kids who are kind of on that cusp, like you could move them to proficiency with some interventions, and that is a full 4-week, full school day opportunity for kids.
I checked in the high school today with the math tutoring that happens after school in the library, and every single seat in the library was filled with students there that came to get extra help or tutoring or mentoring with math. And so I don't have like the data over time for that, but what I'm hearing at the high school is all of the tutoring and support programs that we have in place are very well attended and respected by the kids and teachers.
Can I interrupt your presentation for 1 second?
Sure.
When you say growth rates, What exactly do you mean by,
We look at the growth over time, so what measures of academic process allows us to do is that kids can take the assessment right now at the beginning of the year, and then take it again 2 other times this year, and we can track their growth over time.
okay,
Does that
that's
make
what I
sense?
thought it
Yeah.
meant, but
Yeah.
it
It's a great
wasn't
question.
defined anywhere in
Yes,
here.
it's a great question. It's a great question.
Okay, so our revised goals for both math and English language arts for this year is we are hoping that for grades 6 through 11, we will be able to meet projected growth rates of 2 to 5% in both math and ELA as measured by MAP. And again, at the high school, this is the first year that we really can use this data and make it meaningful because they are more aligned with semester courses. And so we will have that data for next year. We are also going to look at the proficiency measures and correlate that with the SBAC proficiency measures.
Which will take time.
Which will take time, yes. So the action steps that the 3 of us are proposing for 2015-2016 include updating curriculum guides to align with the Common Core. And that work is well underway at the high school and the middle school, and we're going to keep focused on professional development that'll keep moving that. One of the things that is different, as Tim said, about the Common Core is the student exposure to informational text increases. And one of the things we have to be explicit about at both the middle and the high school level is teaching kids how to gain information from informational text, because the techniques are a little bit different than when you're reading narrative text. And so we are really looking at comprehension strategies and close reading strategies at both the middle and high school that will give students those skills. As we've been talking about here and there, Act 77 requires us to look at models of student-directed learning, which are both underway. The senior project I spoke about, having a larger enrollment during my principal's report, is one of the student-directed learning plans at the high school. Act 77 requires us to have personalized learning plans for all students in 9th grade and 7th. Am I right about that? And so those were piloted last year at the high school. And because the high school is configured for advisories that have cross-grade groups for students in 9 through 11, we're actually going to look at launching personalized learning plans for all students in 9 through 11 this year and continue that pilot. One of the things that I talked about also in my principal's report is how we're going to communicate the growth of this work and the meaning of this work to the community. And that's through the course we're taking in Montpelier with students, and that team will be reporting into you guys on a regular basis. Both the middle and the high school have a history of pretty solid professional development in the implementation and the use of formative assessments and making instructional decisions based on those. That work will continue this year. And again, as our first goal indicated, the consistent use of student achievement data to impact instruction are some of the action steps that we're going to be working on this year.
So what we're going to look at now is the shift in assessments. So in the 2013-2014 school year, we were making a shift from the Vermont framework and grade level expectations to the Common Core state standards. And the test we were giving our students was called the NECAP. And that was data we reported out to you. And it was given on paper and with a pencil. In this past school year, 2014-2015, we were teaching to the Common Core state standards, and our local curriculum in math and ELA has officially been aligned to the Common Core state standards. And we, for the first time, gave the SBAC through the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. And it was, all the students completed that assessment on a computer. So it's a summative assessment, or a summary. And this current year, 2015-2016, we are still teaching to the Common Core state standards, which is what our local curriculum is based on. We will give the SBAC again in the spring. And again, they'll get a second opportunity to take that summary assessment on a computer. So now we're going to just give you a snapshot of what the SBAC data looks like. You need to remember that this is our baseline data. You can't compare it to anything before because the standards that we're teaching to are very different, and the standards that the assessment is based on are very different. So currently, the data is not reliable, it's not valid. We also need to remember that we were using, our students, our children were using new technology. Some of our children, that was the first time that they had to use some of the tools that they needed to use. So it was a huge learning curve for all of us. So So we're looking at middle school right now. And the blue is the state average right now, and the darker red is the SVSU average, and the lighter orange is Mount Anthony Middle School. You'll notice with 7th and 8th grade, though, remember that all of our 7th graders and all of our 8th graders, that's why those columns are the same height, are all here in this building. And that's just to give you a little snapshot, or our baseline data right now for math. And now we're going to switch to ELA. It's the same structure. We're looking at percent proficient or above. And while you're taking a look at this slide, the goal of the state this year is to educate schools and staff how to interpret the results. So there's a lot of information that comes with the assessment data, and we are, because the scores were just released at the end of the summer, we're just beginning to learn how to interpret and get information to move forward. And we're going to slide into the high school. Okay, and what you'll see here is the state average and then the high school right now for math. And again, the two columns because we have one high school. Okay, and again, and then we'll slide into our last slide here for ELA. So again, we have now our baseline data that we can start to work from. And again, our work this year is going to be working with school leadership teams and the district data team to learn how to interpret the results. And the state is offering trainings for us starting next month and how to do that. Okay, and we'll keep you posted.
So in anticipation as we move forward for what we're working on this year, something for the board to consider, board members to consider, is that very quickly we'll be talking about budget and requests from the middle school and the high school. Something that we would like you to consider are these limited list of things. Collaboration time for teachers outside of the regular school year has proven to be really, really valuable. The example being the ELA and math groups, actually having teachers available outside of them worrying about, I've left kids in classes with subs and sub-plans and focusing on the work. It allows teachers to just do so much more meaningful work, such as looking at data, such as aligning curriculum to the new standards, such as looking at assessment tools and things like that. That takes time, and it takes a commitment of funds to allow people to be able to do that. And we have found that summer hours have been beneficial to us, so that's something to think about. Funds to support math and literacy interventions as we align with the Common Core standards. I'll give you a concrete example of that. In the middle school, we are entitled to a certain amount of Title I funds through the district. We use those right now to fund 2 positions. One is a Lit Lab teacher. This is folks who are working with my neediest students as far as reading and teaching kids how to read, and also a language arts teacher, which is a kind of a second class that kids can take to help them with their reading and their writing skills. Title money is not a guarantee, and we have benefited from the MAU board, which has funded a second position in each one of those departments. There is a second reading teacher in this building because of the MAU board. There is a second language arts teacher because of the commitment of this board. So I would just ask the board consider that as they go forward in their planning. Then it can add a detail as far as high school funding, but that commitment we appreciate and would ask that you continue it. Also, the last piece, a need in both buildings. Data teams. As Ms. Boudreau pointed out, the SBAC has just been made available to us. In the lingo of the data field, unpacking that result, finding meaning in that result, and then handing it to teachers and saying, hey, this is what you need to look at to be more effective in your instruction to kids, that takes time. You can't rely on people to do that during their school days. And so I know that in the previous meeting, the board was made aware that we now have funds to hire a data coach at the district level. That's fantastic. We really need to be able to have small groups within both buildings working with that coach to make good decisions around instruction.
And that the data teamwork is ongoing work throughout the year. So when you begin to unpack the results of the summative assessments of the SBAC and the science kneecap, you will still then, once you've made instructional decisions, you will have the data team then look at the formative assessments that are coming out of those instructional decisions that the students are completing and continue to focus on that instructional decision making. So it's a team whose work extends throughout the school year.
So we wanted to just give you a moment if anyone had any questions for any of us. I can back up now.
I just want to comment on what Tim was mentioning, the 4-year courses of algebra and geometry. That was a conscious decision to do that after the discussion with Sue and the student representative and looking at the test results in terms of taking one quarter and skipping and then waiting and coming back to it and so forth. So to help improve that, they brought the recommendation to the board and said, we want to change the schedule. We want to make this all year long and provide the support, and we thought that was great for that.
Right. And that also allows students, when you look at it over a full year, it allows students to do more real-world applications with what they're learning, and it allows students to go deeper. And that's really key in expanding their knowledge of both mathematics and expanding their skills.
Tim, on the SBAC, is that a progressive test where the students move ahead if they get a right answer to the
Yes. Yeah, it will adjust to the student taking the test.
Okay, and that must be, I'd be interested in, when you've had a chance to go over, how they measure that so that we are able to compare to see how we're doing. In other words, take a look at where we did this year and hopefully where we'll be next year when we take that same test.
It's going to take, it's going to take many, because this is like the first year of a major assessment, it's going to take many years for us to get a full grasp on what we can learn from it. So we are just beginning to scratch the surface, but that's our ultimate goal, is to do that.
How do we as a board, how are we to judge how well we're doing, and you too, how well you're doing?
Yeah, it's been tough this year. We are blessed. MAP is our consistent. We've had the measurement of academic progress, or MAP, for many, many, many years. That's our one consistent tool. But even that consistent tool has had to evolve to reflect when the Common Core was adopted. It had to evolve as well. So all of our measures right now are moving and shifting. Our best assessment right now is our classroom assessment. The formative assessment that's happening in classrooms with teachers is our best assessment right now to help guide next steps for instruction. But these other tools as well will evolve, and we are going to be part of the process with the rest of our peers from the state and in figuring out how's this going to help us make good decisions.
Right. Are we going to get any sort of objective comparisons that are they going to still take the MAP tests, or is that?
Yes.
So we can use that, couldn't we?
Well, we can, but again, when you're looking at a child, you want to look at a child from multiple data points. So we can use that, but we use it with other pieces of data. Like we use that MAP data with formative assessment that's happening in the classroom, because teachers are doing wonderful things with assessment. So we're trying really hard to make sure that when we look at a child, we're looking at that child from multiple different points to get a good read, which means we're individualizing. So we're really looking individually at each one of our kids.
But in terms of the state is doing the same sort of, those schools that are still taking it, so those comparisons would be valid, wouldn't they?
Rebecca Holcomb has been wonderful. I can read you this, I carry this around with me. She says, tests can be powerful tools for establishing trends, evaluating our effectiveness with different subgroups, and auditing other local assessment tools. However, there are very good empirical reasons to be cautious about making conclusions and consequential decisions based on these scores particularly during a transition. And she goes on to talk about it is going to take many years till we can. But everybody in the state is going through the same exact thing. And that's the comfort in it, is we're figuring it out. And so, for example, when we start to go to trainings starting next month, we'll start to have more information about the directions it's headed.
Just to refresh my memory, who takes the MAP exams? What grade?
In the middle school, grades 6, 7, and 8.
In 11 in the high school?
In the high school this year, we're doing 9 through 11.
You're going to do 9 through 11?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And as I would just, the only thing I would add is, as Laura said early on in the presentation, you know, many times when you look in the press, they want to know number of kids who are proficient.
That's right.
You know, and it's simple. You put it on the front page. It's easy to, well, it's easy to print. I'll leave it at that. But what we would really like the board to start thinking about, going to your question, is what's the growth? You know, are your kids who are coming into school behind growing? Are your kids right in that happy bell curve in the middle growing? And even your kids who are, you know, reading at a grade level or two ahead of you, are they growing? And MAP test is one of those measures that can tell you that.
Right.
Because people worry about that grade middle, are they proficient? But you can show growth even for kids who are really far behind, you're catching them up. And even your kids who seem like they're already there, you can show that you're still challenging them. And that's really the thing we want to talk about at the middle of high school. This goes directly to PLP. How engaged are these kids in school? They come in every day to the building and they say, I know why I'm here and what my purpose is. So that could be something that we can talk about, measuring that going forward as an evaluation.
Anybody else have any? Yes. Yeah, let me let someone.
Just a quick question. When you have a table, a chart here that says the state average is 37% and we're at 35, is that raw data or is there some other way to interpret that? Because the obvious question is, are we below the state average, or is there something I'm missing in how to interpret this?
Yeah, so they did take the state average this year, and then they gave us our where we sit based on that average in this moment. But you have to remember when you look at that, because Tim had a great point. We look at it and we go, you know, we make you have an initial reaction when you look at it, but then you have to stop and remember, okay, that's the first year we gave it, and maybe some of our kids didn't have certain technological experiences prior.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? And
that's what I was asking.
And compared to someone else in another, that's why
we need multiple years with this one test.
Yes.
Okay.
To make an accurate assessment of
Now I
how we're
understand.
doing. Because it could be as simple as other parts of the state have had their Chromebooks longer than we have, and their students are more proficient in using it, and the test really was a judge of how they use technology as opposed to what their knowledge is. So
That's what I was
you know,
asking.
we're going to need to be patient on this, and it's, you know, 2 years doesn't do it. It's going to be 3, if not 5 years before we have enough consistent data to really make that judge. And as Laura and Glenda and Tim have said, right now that only consistent one for us is MAP testing, and even that has had its transformation. So it's
a work in
thank you.
progress.
Are there any other questions? Leon, did you have another question?
Well, I just wanted to make sure I understand the goal of 2 to 5% growth in the chart in math and literacy data for the 2014. And so now I'm going to be looking at 2015 and 16. And so regardless of what the state come out, you're challenging the growth in these columns for the MAP data, and saying that we're going to see whether we're really improving or not out here.
We're going to look at the growth of a child over the course of a year using MAP as one measure. But we're also, our comprehensive assessment system is evolving, so we're also going to be looking for ways to set goals. But yes,
So next time we'll see this chart again, this same chart, and it'll have 6, 7, and the 6th graders that are coming in for that. They won't be the same one,
set the
but
goal.
the 7th, yeah.
Right now we've set the goal that's.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
There's so much there that, you know, we could go on forever.
I do want to thank, of course, both our principals, but give Laura a special thanks. She is doing this presentation to all the different school districts with all our principals, and there's a lot to absorb, and to have the patience to not rush to judgment as we analyze all this data. And I really do think it's going to drive an improvement in our instruction because as teachers, as educators, we love to be able to see how our students are doing and how we can make adjustments to our instruction based on what we're seeing on their performance. So the feedback is good, but thank you for that. Just a couple other things that I want to add on my report tonight. Down in Pownell this morning, this afternoon, evening, early at their meeting, they were the last of the local school districts that approved to join, send a representative, join the SVSU Study Committee for Act 46, and to then vote a representative to be there. So that panel is now in place. So I will be convening that board, and they have a lot of discussions and a lot of work to do. At some point, we will.
Go ahead.
Okay. At some point, I imagine that, depending on where they go with this, they would be coming to this board, to the MAU board, because the study committee can vote to add additional members. The question is whether you vote, they have the right to vote or not, and we're still researching that. Because why you won't have your own representative necessarily is because you would throw the balance off of the proportional vote. So Shaftesbury already has a representative. Then if MAU voted to have Fran be their representative, then Shaftesbury would have 2 votes on that committee. But because one of the options is the preferred model is pre-K through 12 school district, 1 board, 1 budget for the entire region. And I've heard all kinds of opinions where everybody is on that. I'm not promoting or preaching either one. I'm just saying that is the preferred model. Then there are other options, there. The first option that they'll be looking at is the accelerated consolidation, which would have to happen by next July. I'm not too optimistic that that would happen. That's where the most money is. That's where the consolidation implementation grant of $155,000 is available, and also the highest reimbursement, 10% on the tax rate in that first year. That goes away. You can consolidate anytime after the first year. So that's the non-accelerated consolidation, or what is becoming the popular term in the districts is option 3, even though the law doesn't really call it option 3, that we are going to try and make a case that we think we're consolidated enough. Our savings is already there. Maybe there's a few other things that we could look at, like facilities management or something like that. The caution on that is the bar is going to get harder to pass, because as school districts consolidate before us, and if they demonstrate savings, then it's going to be more difficult for us to prove our case to the state, and that is what we would have to do under option 3. We would have to present the information to the Secretary of Education, who then, if they were in agreement, they would have to then present it to the state board, and we would have to have that proposal in by some date in 2017. I know, I've discussed this with many of you at your different boards as we've gone around this month. Some of you are on other boards. I know what happened with the Red Committee. I wasn't here, but I was at the CDC, so I'm somewhat familiar with what I was doing. This is a little bit different because there is punitive action that the state could take if you didn't take action, and there also is the clock that is ticking that 5 years hence the Secretary of Education could come down and, with the state board approval, configure us how they feel best for consolidation. Now, I know that there are legal challenges going on to the law. I know that I am certainly aware that the political process and the political landscape could change some aspects of this, but in my opinion, it's not going to go completely away. But I'm glad that we have at least formed this committee, and we'll move forward. We hope to be doing a public forum on October 13th open to the public, because our goal is to get this discussion. That is one of the charges of this study committee, is that they have to conduct public forums. We'll have more information, start advertising that once we confirm all the details on that, October 13th, because one of their charges is to get that information beyond just school boards and get the communities involved in this very important discussion. Any questions or comments on that? I think we had one. Yeah.
Fran, I know, showed up at those meetings. I didn't give up.
I'm glad he went into that detail, because I wasn't going to do that. That's fine.
But I know that you went to quite a few of the meetings.
Yeah, well, I also went up with, and so.
We had a nice road trip together.
Or the board members not to get a real good answer, but anyway, about failure. But all I have is Act 46. It's an act relating to making amendments to education funding, education spending, and education governance. And it's interesting because in 1997, we had 103,000 students in the state of Vermont. Now is 2015, we have 78,300. So that's, you know, a little over 35,000 loss in students. And that 5-figure, and Rick hates when I do this, but I took 12,000 a student just for last. That's over $4 million in revenue. So, I mean, it's, let's face it, we're losing enrollment. And we got to do something to sustain our budget. So, I mean, that's just a quick, and we also had that meeting September 1st at the CDC. And still, even though breaking up into groups and discussing it, we still don't have any. I think they're waiting to see what the boards are going to do and what they submit. Yeah. And go from there. And Jim's right. We could, you know, submit something that we're already consolidated as much as we can, or want to, if you want to call it that, and see what they do with it. Yeah. So.
Does anybody have any questions of Jim or Fran on this issue? It's a big issue, and it's still way up the air. It seems like every 2 or 3 years we go through the same process.
Right.
And we'll see.
Seems about that's all I go to meetings on right now. So I have another one Tuesday. I'll be going to Montpelier on Tuesday for a Vermont Superintendent's meeting, specifically just on more details with the state on Act 46. The other thing, tomorrow we begin our yearly series. We do a series of meetings, monthly meetings with the chairs of school boards and the select board from Bennington. It's been a beneficial series of meetings for us. We meet once a month, so we kick off again tomorrow morning, and that'll be at central office. And the last thing, I see Amy back there to report. Thank you for your diligence on the teacher's contract. To report that I believe all typos and corrections have been done, and the signature sheet is now ready and being passed around. So
you were going to bring it.
Yeah, but I didn't. So, so are you coming tomorrow morning? Are you coming to the joint meeting tomorrow? So I'll have that for this. So I do have some board. And Amy, we're meeting tomorrow afternoon, so I hope that I will have that for everyone's signature on it by then, and then we will put in. And there were some corrections made into the contract that probably have been there, and since we had an English teacher reviewing it, and she's smiling back there, some typos that have been in that contract a long time. So
well,
we have a document that we all should be proud of.
Right. You know, personally and for the board, I'd like to thank Amy for the work that she did reviewing that contract and bringing the corrections that needed to be made to the attention of Jim and Steve and Norm too, so that we could get them resolved. And I've been told that we have an agreement, so that is good.
Yep, we're all in agreement. It's all been proofread and everything, so we can go right ahead and sign it.
Very good. Anything else, Jim?
That's it.
Any questions? Chair's report. At our next meeting, I'd like to open the discussion with each of you as to what issues you as board members would like to see us address, or at least discuss, or put into a committee to form to discuss. So what I would like you to do for the following month is to give that some thought, and at our next meeting I will ask each of you for those ideas that you have that you think this board would and the school system would benefit from further discussion and some more work on. It doesn't have to be highly academic or anything else, just some ideas that you would like to see us work on to develop. Okay. Leon, I guess there are no policies?
We did not have a policy meeting this month, the 14th. We have one on the 5th, and there will be some items up for discussion. I know that the nutritional policy piece is being looked at from that particular board. I attended that meeting.
It's going to be for your October meeting. I know they're making modifications to that.
Right, for that. And then we do have some other activities that are coming up. I know the state sit down and want to combine the bullying, harassment policy back together again. We took it apart, we was together, we took it apart, and now we're trying to put it back together. But there are some things that needed to happen that I think Rick sent that earlier out, and I don't know whether all the board members got it. The mandate reporting system out here, making everybody aware of what their responsibility is in terms of reporting incidents that occur.
I didn't get it.
Okay, are there any?
I got it, but we'll get it.
Are there any other issues that board members would hear or bring before this board?
I move we
I
adjourn.
entertain, you have a second?
Second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? None. Very good, thank you.
If you could pass me your name card so I can have them for next meeting.